What is going on, Cuse Nation? Welcome to yet another edition of Orange Heat. My name's Giovanni Heater, as always, and thank you for joining me as today we take a look at the 2020 ACC football plan. Now, this was released 2 days ago that the Atlantic Coast Conference is going to play 10 conference games this upcoming season and one non-conference game. Now, a lot of little tricks in here, a lot of things that people might be surprised about, and nonetheless, a lot to dive into. So let's get into it without further ado. So as I said, beginning on September 7th through 12th, that's an entire week there of college football for us almost, that the ACC is going to begin play. So it's actually a week later than traditionally college football would normally start. And every team here is going to play 11 games total, and 10 of them are going to be conference games, 5 away and 5 at home at your home stadium, and then one non-conference game. And that one non-conference game either has to be played at home or has to be played in your state. So you're talking Syracuse possibly playing, a lot of people are saying University of Buffalo possibly in that game, depending on what the MAC conference is going to do. You're probably not going to play Colgate because Colgate, I believe, is in the works of not playing at all this fall. So a lot can happen in the coming months here, but nonetheless, Syracuse is going to play one non-conference and 11 conference games, 5 at home and 5 on the road. The big ticker in this one, Notre Dame joining the fray after 132 years of not being affiliated with a conference. Kind of a stab to the heart of every Notre Dame fan, as they pride themselves on being one of the few independents left in college football. They now join the Atlantic Coast Conference, and there's a lot of conversation what that could be about. Is it that the ACC offered them more money than possibly the Big Ten, an opportunity to go to the Big Ten and actually have a safer route for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish? Not traveling as far out of state. You know, they're located in Indiana. They don't have to go necessarily as far if you're playing a Big Ten schedule in Ohio. You're playing Indiana, who's right in Indiana, Iowa, teams like that, Michigan, who are right there kind of in your realm. And instead, they're going to be traveling all down the East Coast playing in the Atlantic Coast Conference. But it could be that the ACC offer them more money, and in that situation, how could you say that you're not chasing the money and that your student-athlete's health is at your biggest forefront? Clearly, that's just simply not true because you had an easier route to go play in the Big Ten. But another conversation is that, you know, ACC has been affiliated with the ACC in the past, and with every other sport pretty much. Their football team plays a very ACC-oriented schedule with probably at least 3 or 4 teams being ACC foes throughout the length of their season, year in and year out. And, of course, basketball, lacrosse, every other sport, they are in the Atlantic Coast Conference. So that also is that sense of home, and that it would be strange to see Notre Dame football in a Big Ten conference when every other sport is in the ACC. And looking at it on a Syracuse schedule, it's not that unique or uncommon to see Notre Dame. Of course it is for football, but just across the board looking at an AC schedule, it really doesn't look all that different. But I'm excited personally that Syracuse is going to be taking on the Fighting Irish this year. Yes, it makes our schedule that much more difficult. And really, you're only playing one game less than you were supposed to throughout the season. So you're playing some teams here that you wouldn't normally get to play, and that's Notre Dame, of course. So playing Notre Dame is going to be extremely exciting. We haven't played on the road at Notre Dame in a very, very long time. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do in South Bend. They have not announced if they're going to have fans in their venue or not, but nonetheless, Syracuse is going to go to South Bend, Indiana, and take on Notre Dame this season, something that hasn't happened in a very, very long time. Now, the other thing with this whole ACC schedule that is pretty unique is that there are going to be no divisions whatsoever, ixnaying the whole Atlantic Division and the Coastal Division in the ACC this year. That is gone. Simply what they're going to do to decide the ACC championship game, which is going to be played this year, it's going to be at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's actually going to be based off of conference game winning percentage. So the top 2 teams. So if this was a couple years ago, Syracuse and Clemson would have been playing in the ACC championship against each other that year that we had the 10-win season. That's kind of what they're going off of here. So no longer do you have the divisions, and it's just going to be flat out the top two teams. So you'd like to say Clemson's going to be in there. It's almost a guarantee that you're going to see the Tigers in there this year. And you're going to see Notre Dame in the fight. And if I had to make a prediction right now, I'd probably say you're going to see a Clemson-Notre Dame ACC championship. The beautiful thing about college football, there's surprises every single year. Don't count out teams like Virginia. Don't count out teams like Virginia Tech, possibly a Miami, possibly, call me crazy, but a Wake Forest who has been on the climb these last few years and has successfully made themselves a pretty competitive program in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And, we'll see what happens with Syracuse. I would not be surprised if they were somewhat in the mix if they can win some games down the stretch here. But really, this is pretty exciting to me. Out of all the plans that I've seen in college football, this is the most exciting. And I think the addition of Notre Dame makes it that much better. It makes it that much more competitive. It makes it that much more must-see TV. Some stadiums are not going to have any fans, like Syracuse as of right now. They say that Cuomo is going to take another look at it when it comes the time for college football, which would be that week of the 7th, if there can be something like a half capacity or even smaller than that, because there are stadiums around the country that are doing half capacity, even smaller than that. The Texas Longhorns are still going to have 50,000 people in their stadium. Now, that's normally a 85,000 seat stadium, but 50,000 people, that's an entire packed Carrier Dome. They're going to be going to watch the Texas Longhorns this year. So one of the problems with the Dome is it is inside, which doesn't help the chances. It's a lot different when you can breathe clean air, you're outdoors. But man, these Q's fans, we're dying to see this new roof, this new scoreboard, and it should, it was scheduled to be done at that point. So as far as known, it's going to be done. The renovations will be complete by the time kickoff comes for the 2020 football season. But the best thing of all about this whole thing is that we kind of have some confirmation that we are going to see college football this year and in the fall as well, and we're not going to have to wait till the spring. And you're still going to play 11 games out of the 12 that you would normally play. Not bad at all. Typically, I thought this was going to drop down to only conference would be about 8 games or so, but that's not going to be the case. That's exciting, absolutely. And Syracuse stands at a situation where even though the traveling is going to be tough, there's a lot of question marks as far as if they're going to be able to ixnay the travel ban. So the only problem is, are they going to have to, literally, you can't stay in a state for more than 24 hours, otherwise you have to do the 2-week quarantine. So they're either going to have to go down and leave the morning of the game, go to the game, and leave right after the game to stay within that 24 hours, which is doable. But as a student athlete, that would be very exhausting. And that's not exactly the ideal situation for a Division I college football squad. But they are looking at, from what I've heard and read, possibly getting an excused from that quarantine situation if they were to take the proper protocols when traveling and everything like that. So right now, a lot of things still up in the air, but it's good. It's good news that we're probably going to get to see college football. And if you told me that 3 weeks ago, I might have said, hold up, I don't think so. But the TBT happened, that basketball tournament, and it was successful. It was very successful. 2 teams got there and were removed immediately, and their systems seemed to work. Everybody stayed healthy. They completed the entire tournament. The NBA is officially restarted, and they have the same situation kind of with the TBT, that they have things very under control. They've played a couple of weeks now of the preseason exhibition games, so to speak, and the restart is official. Last night, the Los Angeles Clippers took a loss to the Lakers at the hands of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and earlier that night, the Utah Jazz took down Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. That squad, of course, the New Orleans Pelicans. So the NBA is back. Games all day today, games all day tomorrow, games all the way till October. There's plenty of sports to watch, and the only downfall right now is what's happening in baseball. You see the Phillies closing operations for a day. You see like 20-something people in the Florida Marlins organization becoming sick with this coronavirus. And that's the one thing that worries me, is that baseball is doing the same thing that college football will be doing, where they are traveling to these different cities, to these different stadiums to play these games, unlike the bubble setting that is happening in the NBA and the TBT. And you see the bubble being very successful. It's not going to be a bubble for college football. So that's a little bit worrisome. That's a little bit worrisome for sure. But a quick episode for you today. Let's real quick take a look at the Syracuse football schedule, what it is now going to be. Now, they don't have dates and times just yet. They simply have the home and away slots. So very similar to what it was going to be during the regular season, only a few changes. And the few changes are actually a little bit of a bummer to me, somewhat. So they're playing home against Boston College, okay, a team that we play year in and year out. They're in the Atlantic Division with us. A home game against the Duke Blue Devils, someone that was not on our schedule this year, so interesting to see them. And then a home game against Georgia Tech, a team that was on our schedule this year, but I believe might have been supposed to be a road game. Don't quote me on that. NC State at home, again, play them year in and year out. Played them on the road last year. That makes all the sense in the world. And Wake Forest at home this year. So the schedule completely has changed, because North Carolina State was going to be a home game, but besides that, Duke wasn't going to be on there. Boston College was supposed to be a road game this year, and Wake Forest was supposed to be a road game this year as well. And looking on the other side of it, you have Clemson, of course, play them every single year. You have Louisville, play them every single year. Now, two tough places to play. Death Valley, of course, and playing at Papa John's Stadium is a tough place to play against the Cardinals. We don't fare well on the road against Louisville. And then UNC, who Mac Brown has that team fueling, that is not going to be a cakewalk. That is going to be a very tough game, especially to play on the road. They almost knocked off the Clemson Tigers last year, so playing at UNC is going to be tough. Playing on the road, as I said, in South Bend, Indiana, against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and then you're going to play against the Pitt Panthers on the road as well, something that, we are no stranger to Heinz Field. We played them all the time in the Big East, and we're going to play them again in the ACC, and we play there just about all the time. They played in the Dome this past year, so it makes sense to go on the road. Now, this is a tough schedule. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. You're playing Clemson. You're playing Notre Dame. Some teams that I'm bummed are off this thing is Florida State. Florida State, we would have played if the season were going on like normal. We were supposed to play them. We play them every single year. Of course, they're in our division. A little bummed not to see them. And then I'm a little disappointed in the coastal matchups we have. Of course, you're going to play Pitt. That's our allotted rival. We play them every single year. But Duke, we just played last year. Duke's, they're a decent program. Georgia Tech, we haven't played Georgia Tech since joining the ACC. So I'm excited to play that game, but a little bummed there. And then UNC, we just played last year. The Coastal's interesting because you cycle through every other year. And even though it would have made the schedule that much harder, I am excited to play UNC because they're talented this year. One of the top recruiting classes in college football. Very, very impressive what Mac Brown has done. But I really would have liked to see a Virginia Tech on there, a Virginia Cavaliers, and a Miami. If you give me one of those three, I really would have been happy. I would not have picked Duke, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina as our kind of surprise Coastal Division games. I really, really would have loved to see a matchup against Bryce Perkins and that explosive Virginia offense, or Virginia Tech, especially playing on the road. We have yet to play at Lane Stadium in a very long time, since the Donovan McNabb years, when really Virginia Tech was part of the Big East. We have not played on the road against Virginia Tech since joining the ACC. We've only played them once. It was in the Dome. It was Dino Babers' first signature win. They were ranked. We took them down. But I really would have liked to see the Hokies and the Miami Hurricanes. How could you not want to play against Miami? But it is what it is. They wanted to try to not make it excruciatingly hard. It's already tough as it is because we're already playing against Notre Dame and Clemson, which not everyone's doing, not to mention NC State, Wake Forest, North Carolina, Pitt. I mean, this is a loaded schedule. It's an ACC schedule. Every single game's going to be a conference game besides that one non-conference. And I'm excited to see what they do with that non-conference game. Again, possibly Buffalo, but not really sure. That's news that's going to come in the future. But college football is back, baby. And the Syracuse Orange have some excitement coming their way. They're all doing workouts and spring practices and whatnot right now. Or not spring, preseason practices. The summer camp, of course. It's exciting. It's exciting, and we're about a month and a week out. It's the end of July right now, so we're about a month and a week out till September 7th, and we're going to have kickoff, and fingers crossed that everything holds out till then, the proper precautions are taken, and we're going to get a full college football season. So I'm very excited to see what happens. I hope you guys are. It was a big announcement, and I had to get on here and talk about it and share my feelings about it because I'm just so excited that Syracuse football is going to be back this fall. Thank you so much for joining me as always. Go hit up the Twitter at GeoHeater, the Instagram at Giovanni Heater. Leave your comments below as far as what you think on all this. I'm very curious to read. People have very differing opinions. I personally love what's happening, but I know a lot of people that are very against what's happening. I'm excited for Notre Dame to be joining the Atlantic Coast Conference. A lot of people are very against the Fighting Irish being in the ACC college football conference this upcoming fall. So leave a like, a comment, and a subscribe, and definitely let me know what you think. Thank you guys for the support as always, and we're out of here. Let's go Orange, baby. Woo!